Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Into the Light. Again, my name's Wes, and today I want to talk about our thoughts. I want to talk about how our thoughts play such a vital and crucial role in our lives and the direction that our lives take. I think a lot of people out there don't realize just the importance and the weight that our thoughts carry. And I want to try to share with you some of the things from my experience and some of the work that I've consumed and the things that I've seen in my life that have kind of led me to the realization of how our thoughts really do play a vital role in the creation of our reality. I mean, they shape and mold what is manifested out into our, you know, our three-dimensional world that we all can experience through our five senses. But I believe there's so much more out there than what we can perceive through our five senses, and our thoughts kind of act as I don't know, a mediator, maybe you could say, between the reality that we can experience through our five senses and then the reality that exists within our consciousness and within our heart and everything else. So, with that being said, I want to share with you a brief kind of paraphrasing of a story that Neville Goddard tells with such eloquence. Now, I'm sure I'll butcher the story, but it goes something like this. He kind of, again, he's talking on our thoughts and trying to illustrate the importance of that our thoughts play in our reality. And he kind of tells a story about, how we all twirl thoughts around in our minds, and it seems like it's just human nature to focus on the negative, to focus on bad things. Something bad happens in our life, and we replay it over and over and over again in our minds until we're so twisted up in our thoughts that we can't see past the tip of our nose hardly. Now, the story that I want to kind of paraphrase is he talks about, okay, well, let's just take it for instance, real world scenario. We all have people that we vibe with, people that we get along with well, our family, our friends, the important people in our life that we seem to see eye to eye with. But then there's also people that we all interact with on a daily basis, some of us, who may not be our favorite person in the world. I mean, maybe there's somebody at work that you have to work with, you feel like you're forced to work with on this project or that thing or whatever the case may be. And every time you're forced to work with this person, you just feel a sense of dread wash over you, and you play these thoughts in your mind about the last time you had to work with this person on something, and about how it's never gone well. Every time you two try to collaborate on something, you wind up butting heads with one another. You think that their ideas aren't worth what they're claiming it to be, and then they always have some kind of nitpick for your ideas, and you just kind of replay this scenario over and over again in your mind about how you have this great idea, but they'll never agree with you on this. They're going to have something that they think is better than that, and this is just one tiny little example. It could be an infinite number of ways or of conflicts that could potentially arise within your life, based by and large on how we think about these things within our minds leading up to it. Now, again, Neville teaches us that whenever we view life through that lens, a lens of dread, of using our past experiences as a guide rather than the light within as a guide, what we do is we're essentially praying for an argument or to be offended by that person during our next meeting, because that's what we've played through our minds. We've played through our minds this conflict with that person. So a different way that we could approach that is asking ourselves, rather than, focusing on what inadequacies we perceive that this person may have and how they may view our ideas as illegitimate or whatever the case may be, maybe instead of doing that, we could ask ourselves, how can I change my thought process? What can I bring to the table that's going to be different, that could help to steer away from that conflict and help us to come together and collaborate on whatever it is that we're having to work on together? And you could also ask yourself, well, what have I not seen in this person? What are their true strengths? I'm focusing on this thing that I just can't seem to agree with on them, but what am I not seeing? what may they have to offer that I could learn from, or that could make the whole situation so much better that I may have never thought of. So we have to think about those things. Now, so how do we actually go about controlling our thoughts? Well, that's a tricky thing because the world is a hard place. And we all have jobs and responsibilities and bills and everything else that goes along with it. And we get so caught up in the cycle of negative thinking that it seems like it's impossible to break free from it. So, how do we do that? Well, I think first and foremost, we have to make a commitment to ourselves to change this about ourselves. We have to commit to a new way of living and a new way of being. And, basically just that we want to learn and grow every single day. And we want to focus on the positive, and we want to try to find the good in people rather than focusing on their inadequacies as we perceive them. So, in doing that, in making that commitment, I think that certain tangible things within our lives will have to shift to extent in order to make that happen, because again, we're all so immersed in everything around us, the hustle and the bustle, the news, the politics, the social media, the screen scrolling, everything like that. It's just grabbing our attention and trying to pull it in this direction and that. And we're left for little time after that to actually reflect within ourselves and ask our soul, ask God, ask our higher selves, where am I going wrong? How can I make things better? How can I improve my life, and in doing so, hopefully improve the life of someone else? Well, there's certain practices I think are important to adopt. Now, again, of course, this is going to look different for everybody. Everybody's on their own individual journey. So what works for me probably won't work for you. But there are some things I believe that are important. And I think that's to find time to quiet and still the mind, okay? Because whenever we pray, if we pray correctly, we're talking to God. And our intuition is God talking to us. But when we have all this noise in our mind, we can't hear that. God speaks to us in a still, small voice. He doesn't yell at us. If we hear something in our mind that's yelling at us, well, that's our ego. That's not God, okay? So we have to find a way to still our mind, to be quiet. And whether that's doing something like I'm doing right here, being out in nature, listening to the wind blow through the trees and just enjoying Mother Nature at her best right here, or finding a quiet corner of your house and just taking a few minutes to breathe and reflect. I just think it's of utmost importance to find time every single day. 20 to 30 minutes is ideal. And longer is not a bad thing either. But it's definitely important to find some time, 20 to 30 minutes every single day, to just sit or lie in quiet solitude where we just focus on our breath. We breathe slow and we breathe deep, and we follow our breath and we control our breath. And through our breath, we're connected to the divine. And now, it takes a lot of practice, okay? Let me say that. This is not something that's gonna just unfold and happen. All of a sudden your thoughts are just gonna be clear and precise after laying down for 20 minutes and breathing, okay? It takes time, it takes commitment, it takes an everyday practice, in my opinion and in my experience, in order to really do this and make positive change in your life. And over time, as you commit to quieting and stilling your mind every single day, things will start to come into focus. Things will start to become clear. Those thoughts of just the negative cycle of how everything appears to be in your world, they'll begin to clear and they'll start to part. And then you'll be able to see the blue skies behind that. And you'll be able to really understand, again, the importance that our thoughts do play. And that can tend to springboard us forward onto the next great idea or the next thing that's in our journey here. So, with that being said, again, it's vitally important to take just a few minutes a day, 20 to 30 minutes, more if you prefer, But I do find, it's hard for me anyway to really get into that mode of just bliss, to where the thoughts just almost cease to exist. And I'm just in this place of unconditioned consciousness, where I can hear that still small voice clear as day. It takes me a little bit of time to get into that, and I expect for many people it will take some time to do that as well. But again, I do think it's vitally important to commit to ourselves to doing that regularly on a daily basis if we do hope to make positive change in our life. And I think that should be something that we should all strive for, is to make positive change in our life, and in doing so to, help our neighbors, help our coworkers, help our loved ones in any way that we can. So with that being said, I do want to share a verse with you today. I'm going to get my phone and read it because I want to get it correct. And my glasses, my old man glasses here. So this is from Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. It says, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things." Now, the part of that really just kind of replays in my mind, that really sticks with me, is, the entire thing essentially, but really kind of the whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, think on these things. So what that's telling us is it's our responsibility to cultivate positive thoughts, to only think about those things that are lovely and of good report, to only think about the way we want life to be, to only view our neighbors and our fellow human beings in a positive light, to not throw shade at them because whatever we perceive is wrong in our life, we want to place the blame somewhere else other than reflecting and acknowledging our part of whatever might have made our situation unsavory, if you were. So again, it's so important to think only on what is lovely and of good report. And in doing that, over time, we see our life, our reality, it starts to shift and things start to change. At first it's subtle, and then as time passes and we continue on because we're committed to this process, the changes become less subtle and other people start to notice these changes. And as more time passes, maybe we can even barely recognize ourselves from what we have become to what we were. No longer are we a shell of what we once could be, but we're now filled with the beautiful spirit within, the beautiful light and love that permeates through everything. We're now a part of that. It ignites the spark within us, this lied there dormant, just waiting to be kindled our entire lives. So again, our thoughts do play a vital role in the creation of our reality and in making the world what we want it to be, rather than being swung back and forth by the pendulum of whatever the powers that be want us to be at that point in time. So with that being said, I want to thank you all again so much for being here and for listening to my rant about our thoughts today. I encourage you again to share some of your experiences down in the comments, and please help us to grow the channel and subscribe and like the video if you see fit, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.